very, very excited because I'm sitting with an old friend of mine and a former employee of mine, Mandy Stafford. So, Mandy, what did you used to do for us?
I was a licensed funeral director and manager for Mueller Memorial in Interra for just over 7 years.
Great funeral director, great person, and we get to continue working together because after you moved to New Ulm with your family, you got hired by the very people we're going to talk about today, which is Return Home.
Yes.
And Mandy was very, very instrumental in getting us started down this path of green burial right from the get-go, because it was the directors who came to me and said, hey, I think we ought to go down this path. In fact, Mandy even gave us our name of Interra Green Burial.
Yeah.
And so with Mandy's leadership, we really all leaned into this whole green burial option. And at that time, when we first looked into it, we didn't have the options that we have now, but I kind of look at it as 5 different dispositions. One is burial. Everybody certainly knows about that. The other one is cremation. Everybody certainly knows about that. There's another form of cremation called aquamation, which is water-based, not flame, not destructive cremation, and many people have an interest in that. And then green burial, which is without embalming, without vaults, minimal approach towards things, and many people have really endorsed that. And you were part of forming that with us and directing several of those funerals as well.
Yeah.
And then the 5th one that came along that we didn't even know about at the time that we started this was natural organic reduction, or human composting. So, sounds a little weird. What is human composting?
It is what our body naturally is wanting to do. From the day that we pass away, our body starts transitioning immediately. And that embalming process that we're used to doing stops that transition. But with natural organic reduction, we actually just create the perfect environment for your body to do what it naturally is wanting to do.
Because when life ends, decomposition starts, and it can be very subtle, it can be very dramatic depending on the circumstances, but it starts happening right away, which is why the whole embalming process was invented, was not to stop it. It won't stop it completely, but it does slow it down dramatically. But in this kind of environment, with natural organic reduction, you manage that process.
Correct. So we have created a vessel. Think of it as like an open casket, but a person is placed in this vessel with 3 very important organic matters, and those are sawdust, straw, and alfalfa. And those 3 items are in there for very specific reasons. The alfalfa is a nitrogen based, and so it is in there to help this transformation take place. The straw is in there as an insulator. We really watch the temperature inside that vessel. We don't add any heat ourselves. It's all natural right from the person's body, but the straw helps insulate it to make sure the vessel is at that perfect temperature. And the sawdust is in there as an absorption. And so that is all we add to the vessel.
All right, the heat. We're talking about tremendous heat that comes off. So there's no heat that's applied. There's no heating element, anything like that. All of the heat is generated from the decomposition of the body.
Yeah.
How hot will that vessel get?
It will get anywhere from that 140 degrees up to 160 degrees. And that is an important temperature to have because it actually breaks down any medical that's within you, from chemotherapy, from radiation, from any medications that you're taking. It has to stay at a very specific temperature for a certain number of hours to make sure all of those items in your body are bio-unavailable, meaning that when this transformation is complete and your family has the soil back with them, it is safe for you to scatter it wherever you would like on your property.
Is it safe enough to actually use in a garden?
It is. That is your own personal belief. If you want to use it to plant something that's edible, you are not able to sell anything that's edible, but you're able to create absolutely beautiful memorial garden.
I understand that. And some states, in their legalizing this, because this isn't legal everywhere, some states in legalizing it have made that as a prohibition that said that it can't be used in any food production, things like that. It's not because you couldn't do it, it's more probably because you shouldn't do it.
It's that personal belief.
Yeah.
There's nothing that would be harmful to a person by doing it. It's just the state's regulations that they're writing.
All right, so let's talk about regulations because, well, let's go back a little ways to when you were working full-time for us. And many people who have watched us before have heard about this high school teacher in White Bear Lake. His name is Steve Wheeler. We love to remember him, and we remember him well. And he was the first one to say he had met with you in advance, and he said what to you?
Well, he gave us a call one day, and I happened to be sitting in our White Bear Lake office, and he had just found out that he was terminal. And his wife and children were discussing what he was wanting for a service, and he really wanted something natural. He didn't know what that meant, and he started calling around to different funeral homes, asking about natural burial. And a lot of funeral homes are not at that point where they're offering it quite yet, which is a shame.
It is surprising how hopelessly traditional some of the profession is regarding this.
And so we started talking about what Interra is able to offer for natural burials and alkaline hydrolysis and different cemeteries that are okay with those natural burials. And then afterwards he goes, well, what I really want is human composting, but it's not legal in Minnesota yet, and it won't be prior to me meeting it. And that's a sad thing to hear. You know, you're not going to be able to have the thing that you really want. And as a funeral director, as you know, I'm really bad at saying no to families. And I try to make whatever...
It is a professional trait.
I try to make it happen for them if I can possibly do it. And so Taylor had just come back from the first human composting retreat or conference, and she had been talking to me about it just the day before. I said, Steve, I'm going to give you a call back in about 15 minutes, but we're going to get this figured out for you. And I sat and I talked to Taylor, and I called out to Return Home and spoke to Katie Houston, and she said, Mandy, we've helped families from 30 different states. We can help Steve.
Yeah, so that's what started it for us. And I'm very proud to say that even though it isn't legal here in Minnesota, up to this point, we've helped 7 families handle that process by sending them out to our partners out in Seattle at Return Home. And so some people have said, well, we want this green thing, but what's green about flying a body out to Seattle? But here's the reality of it. That plane is going to go to Seattle anyway. The carbon footprint of an extra weight on there of the body going out, and bodies are shipped by air freight all the time, is minimal. And so it is still a tremendously green option. Now, I will tell you that there are 3 providers of natural organic reduction out in Seattle, and you're all fairly close, physically close, but apart. Because where they're apart is when it comes to the philosophy of what they do. And I've been to 2 of the 3 people out there, and I came away from Return Home with the feeling that these people are handling things just as I would handle them on this side. And you did too, because every time we sent somebody out to Return Home, I always sent a staff member with, so that now all of us have been out to Return Home. And we know your staff, we know the founder there, we know them quite well. We've done this 7 times because we want people, if they choose something, that, especially that is new, we want them to be able to trust us and trust the provider that we have faith in. So let's talk about the process a little bit, because I can tell you what happens here. Somebody dies, we can temporarily preserve them with cold packs and dry ice and that type of thing, and do it to the airline's specifications, and send the body out to you. Now, when you get it, what happens?
So the Seattle-Tacoma airport is a 15-minute drive from us, and so we are a licensed funeral home. Most people don't realize that, but Return Home is a licensed funeral home with licensed funeral directors as well.
And in most states, you need to be in order to be able to handle safely the body.
And so just like here in Minnesota, you bring the person to the airport, we do the opposite. We go to the airport and bring the person into our care. And at that point, it is working with you at Interra and Mueller to decide, does the family want what we call is a laying in ceremony. It's our words for a funeral. And we actually have a lot of people fly in from all over the country choose to do a laying in ceremony.
So just, you may not be able to put a number on it, but just in terms of percentage, first of all, how many of the bodies that you care for come from outside of your area?
That need airline to bring in?
Okay.
Or I would say it's probably 60% that are within the Washington area and 40% from outside of the state.
So that's very interesting because you've got 40% of the families that you serve come from elsewhere and have to go through this process in order to get there. Of those 40%, how many families come out to actually be part of that? We've had a couple.
Yeah, of the 7 that Intera has helped, I believe 3 have had a laying-in ceremony.
I know one did it by
virtual
with camera, and it was very, very personal and very powerful for them, but there's nothing like actually being there.
Yeah, there's a certain touch that Return Home does. They are very close to their families, and there's 3 rules that Return Home lives by to be able to say yes to families. Like I had mentioned, as a funeral director, I struggle to say no. Return Home has the 3 rules. Is it safe? Is it legal? Is it done out of love? And anytime a family asks if we can do that, we quickly run through those 3 questions, and any of us are able to say yes to a family.
Yeah, that's a pretty good barometer of what's right and what isn't. And I'm not going to point to anybody else, but there are some other players in this space, and there are many that are coming in quickly as this gets legalized, that do not have those tenets, those beliefs that they have to pass in order to be able to serve a family. And so that's really important to us. Now, let's get back to the process. So the body comes to you, you put the body into the vessel with the alfalfa, the straw, and the sawdust.
Correct.
Person is not clothed.
No, most of our clothing is not biodegradable, and so it actually hinders the process.
But we
have what we call a wisp, which is wrapped in swaddled protection. And it's just a pressed cotton that we're able to put in there, and it's more of a dignity than anything else for the family, because during that laying in ceremony that we have, the family is able to step up to the vessel just like you would step up to an open casket. And so they're gonna see their person laying there, hence the reason the laying in ceremony. And a family is able to place anything in the vessel with their person, just like, again, a casket. We're able to put in notes, photos, food. We've had a full lobster go in there before because it was her favorite meal. We've had the top layer of a wedding cake because it was going to be their anniversary coming up soon. We've had different religions, different cultures bring in different items to place in there. So we see a lot of different things that are placed in the vessel that just help the family to begin that grieving process.
Now, to give everybody a sense of the size of this, and I'm going to use a reference that I'm very familiar with, the vessel size is about twice the size of a normal casket. So kind of gives you an idea of the size. And very shortly, well, immediately after the body is laid in, and actually up to that point, the body has started to decompose and starts to decompose very quickly. Now, the only thing that you do to that vessel is you pump air into it.
We add just a very small amount of air from the bottom of the vessel. It's equivalent to like a blow dryer on the lowest setting. Not the heat part of it, just that air setting.
So how is it that you're able to do this? Because I was in Return Home, and there must have been 70 vessels there. I'm very aware of what odors come from decomposition. I didn't get one whiff. How is that? How are you able to do that? Is it anaerobic or aerobic that is?
You're gonna put me on the spot there. Like we had talked about earlier, those temperatures.
Yep.
And because those temperatures are at a high enough point for a certain number of hours, that's when it hits the anaerobic. That's not where I don't do that part of Return Home. But there's no smell. The only smell that you have at Return Home is that of the straw and alfalfa.
Yeah, it smells like if you're walking into a nursery or a greenhouse or something like that. It really does. And the fascinating thing about this is that if you were to go up and put your hand on the vessel, you can feel the heat. Now, it's not hot to the touch, but you can feel the heat. And what I love about Return Home is they are so transparent that people who live in that area or want to come back during those 30 or so days that they're in that vessel, they can come back and sit there and be with their person, touch it, put pictures on it, that type of thing. But then at the end of how many days?
It's all dependent. It's usually 30 to 45, But just like we all live a different life when we're alive, we are terminated differently as well. And it's a lot that's based on our body composition. If you are a big bodybuilder versus a little old lady who passes away, that process is going to take a little bit longer with the more muscle that you have. And so it's common that it's 30 to 45 days for that first phase, but that's the big one that's up in the air. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer.
So when that's done, then what happens next?
At that point, we move on to phase 2 of the process, and your body has fully transformed into the soil. But like that temperature that we've talking about, that 140, 50, 60 degrees, the soil that has been created is very warm after that first phase.
But the temperature comes down dramatically.
Dramatically,
Yeah. That's how you know when it's time to go into the
correct.
second vessel.
And so you're placed into this second vessel for cooling, off-gassing, and the microbes that are in there naturally to just finish that transition.
So the compost goes into a different vessel. At that point, there's nothing that's distinguishable from the body. But, what happens to the bones?
So the bone, there are still left. Because the bones are so thick with calcium, they're calcified, those microbes that are naturally in there are not able to break them down on their own. In the state of Washington, we are regulated in a sense that everything that is within that vessel is the person. So we are not able to separate any of the bone from the soil. And we think that's very important because that is your person. And so we take everything together and we mechanically reduce it down. And I'm not talking equivalent to like cremation, breaking it down.
Right.
Just breaking it down into pieces that your microbes are now able to get into. Just the porous side of the bone, the microbes are able to get in.
Bones are very hard. And if you create more surface area, then the microbes can get to that. So now they're in this second vessel for how many days?
30 days.
For 30 days. And so that cures, and I've been there again, and there's a little vent on the top. There's no air put into this vessel at all. It just rests. And if you put your hand on the top of the vent, you can feel the heat, not as hot as what it was in vessel number 1. And then when that's done, we're done, right?
Right.
So then when that happens, all the compost is bagged up into burlap bags.
We actually switched.
Okay.
The burlap bags, we're finding out, especially with 70% of our family wanting all of the soil back.
Ah, okay.
And
gets me
with 40% of the families needing to have their person's soil shipped back to them. Those burlap bags, although they were beautiful and they worked as a really wonderful weed barrier if you're making that memorial garden, they didn't hold up, especially with the travel that was required. And so we switched over to a more like a solid bag. It kind of looks like if you've ever seen like a sandbag. And so it's not a solid, it still is able to allow airflow to go through it, which is important for this. It still works as a wonderful weed barrier for those memorial gardens, or if you're gonna plant a tree or anything like that. But we did have to switch away from that burlap.
And the bag is biodegradable.
Correct.
As well. Okay. So when you said how many people?
About 70%.
70%. So the majority of people now are wanting all of the compost. So the question is, how much compost comes back?
It is about 250 pounds or 1 cubic yard of soil that comes back.
So to help, again, I'm going to be the interpreter here. To help interpret what 1 cubic yard looks like, if you were to take a standard refrigerator, that's about the volume of what would come back. Now, in the 7 families that we've helped, we've had people do all sorts of things. We've had people just get a portion of the compost. We had people get 100% of the compost and they brought it to their house and used it as plantings. I had one person take 100% of the compost and we went out to a grave. We actually opened the grave up and put the compost inside and closed it back up. And then we've had some people that have said, I don't have a place for this compost. What's the option then?
We have a scattering grounds. It's a woodland that we purchased. It's about 15 minutes away from our facility, and it was an area that was kind of getting run down when a new community was being built. And so we purchased it, 8 acres. We scattered the soil out there. We have a walking path all the way around it with a bench that says, for those who have returned home. And it's truly just helping create a green space. It will forever stay a green space. It will never be built upon. And people are able to go and walk the path all the way around the woodlands.
I love it. And I am so convinced of our partnership with Return Home. I know the founder very well, certainly know you very well because we worked together for many years, and Katie and Bree and the others there, that we have a very, very good relationship with them. So now in Minnesota, as of July 1st, natural organic reduction will be legal in this state. We've had a big influence over that, our funeral home, because Taylor Johnson, my stepdaughter, who was the first one to get together with Mandy on this, has been working with the steering committee to get it legalized in the state of Minnesota. Did quite a bit of work, and we've testified before the Senate and House. We've gotten it approved in really record time. It was approved, and it's a while before it becomes legal because the health department has to come up with regulations for this. So now it becomes legal July 1st. Neither Mandy or I are aware of anybody in the state of Minnesota at this point that will be able to receive a body for this process. However, I will tell you that if you have an interest in this, be careful who the provider is, because unlike cremation and unlike embalming, where we know what the process is supposed to be and how we're supposed to do it, this process is fairly new. And so everybody has a little different take on it. Some of the people that are doing this in a way that is not comfortable to Mandy or I, where, well, I'll just say it, where the vessel might be in constant rotation. And we just don't think that's dignified to that. It certainly speeds up the process, but I don't think that's right. And so making sure that you choose somebody who does the right thing is hugely important. It's just as important as choosing the right funeral director. So how much does it cost?
For Return Home, our fee is $5,450. Right now, obviously, you also have that travel involved in it and the help of a local funeral home. So there's a little bit extra that is involved in it. But then you're still able to have a beautiful service. Don't worry about, yes, your person is coming to us and we're going to take wonderful care of them in Washington. But before they come to Washington, you're able to have a ceremony right at Mueller Memorial. You can go to a church and have a casketed funeral right at the church. You're able to have a going away ceremony and all of your family gather around your person before they go to the airport.
We've anticipated, with your help a lot before you went to work for them, but we've anticipated a lot of these things and we're able to accommodate almost all of them. Here's the one caveat that I'll tell you, because we're not embalming, time is of the essence. So the state grants us a 6-day window in order to get this accomplished, in order to get the body out to Seattle, and in order for us to have a service. And we're granted that, where most funeral homes have a 3-day window, but we have that because we have a cooler. A lot of people think that funeral homes have coolers. They really do not, but we have a cooler so that we've got a lot more flexibility with that. And with regards to the price, we've put together a price. Currently it's $9,500, and $9,500 includes our fees here and Return Home's fees and preparation for shipment and part of the air freight cost going out there. So if somebody were to open up in this marketplace, I can't imagine them offering it for any less than about $7,500.
It's important for us that we want to be a little bit higher than cremation because it takes quite a bit more time for this process to happen. But we also want to be a little bit less than a traditional casketed funeral. And so we definitely are right in that midpoint between the two.
Yeah, and we are, as a funeral home, we are all in on this. Now, there may be some questions regarding faith. Does my faith support this? It does, but certain, especially within the Catholic faith, certain dioceses may interpret this a little differently. And I suspect that we'll have something coming out from the Minneapolis or the St. Paul Minneapolis diocese fairly soon on this to give guidance. But for right now, it is and has been an option for several years, and it continues to be an option. Until there's a good provider here in the Twin Cities that I feel really comfortable with, we're going to continue using Return Home. We look at them almost as an offshoot of us in Seattle because they have the same mindset that we bring here, they bring to their job in Seattle too. And because I've known and worked with Mandy for so long, that level of trust and competency is at the highest level.
Thank you.
So what's coming with Return Home? You have one location.
One location right now,
Okay.
hoping to be coming here to the Midwest, to Minnesota. It would mean the world to me to have a Return Home facility right here in my home state. And so that is our future. We're starting that conversation. We're hoping to be all over the country.
And
to
let's
be able
talk
to
about
serve.
legalization. So I'm probably out of date. Is it 20 states, 22 states?
There are 13 states that have fully legalized
Right.
it. There are 4 states that have a facility in it right now.
Okay.
There are 12 states that have it in legislation right now. So there is a possibility that by the end of 2025, over half of our country will have legalized it.
So it's coming to a market near you, even if you're not in the Twin Cities or in the Seattle area. It's coming because this is something that I believe that people need to have choice. It is another choice. It is the 5th form of disposition that we offer. Most funeral homes offer 2, and really don't even want to talk about green burial or even this because it's outside of their comfort zone. But we have really embraced it, and I think it's a great option, and it will be getting a lot more publicity as that date comes along for the legalization.
I think that a big point to make is that this was a grassroots movement. This is a movement that the people wanted. It's not funeral homes
Right.
that are
That's
pushing
true.
for
That's
this
very
change.
true.
This is the people that are wanting this, that are really going to their state and writing letters to their legislature. It is the people that are wanting this. And in no other facet of our life do you only have 2 options. If you look at, well, you brought up religion, you look at religions, there's multiple different religions that are out there. If you look at the cheese aisle at the grocery store, there's 50 different options for cheese, for shoes, for clothing, for cars. Everything has 2 options. And for the longest time, our profession only had 2 options.
And I would say that of the 7 families that we have helped, better than half of them, if they didn't have this as an option, would have reluctantly chosen cremation.
And I see that quite often with the families that I speak to all over the country, is that burial, that embalming process just didn't sit right with them. And so they chose the only other option, that was cremation. And now that there is this other option, there's also alkaline hydrolysis and a green burial, but this is a very much different disposition.
It's a tremendously gentle, where the body does what it does on its own. There isn't any accelerant that's used. There isn't any action that's taken on the part of another person to do this at all. It just does it on its own. And the compost that comes back is very special, and to see people react to it, their reaction to it is, I think, more of a loving kind of reaction rather than if they were looking at ashes coming back from a crematory. I'll just be very honest with you.
We always make sure that even if the family is wanting that full amount of soil back, that we always put together one of the pouches that we call a huggable pouch. And so it's a pouch that's maybe 5 pounds of soil, and we always see the family take that one first because it's the perfect size to just sit and hug. And this soil, this person that passed away, and they have maybe been sick for years, or who knows, maybe they just passed away unexpectedly, but the family now has something to create life again. And they get to take care of that tree, of that garden. They get to go sit in the woods.
And they get to see it grow.
Yeah.
And that the person that they love is helping that happen. It is a very intriguing option. It's certainly not for everybody. Is there ever a situation where you cannot accept a body?
The big ones are like prions and active tuberculosis. Those big ones that even with the temperature inside that vessel for that amount of time, it can't take care of that, and it just wouldn't be safe for our families or our workers or the environment.
So prions are not a byproduct of, but they are part of Crutchfield-Jacobs disease, which is a tremendously serious disease. We've cared for one family that we're aware of that had that, and we had to take enormous care for ourselves. So I understand that because, ultimately, whether you're licensed here or in Washington, we are licensed to protect the public health, and that is our number one responsibility. And so that's why I come back to this thing that we have chosen our partners very, very wisely. and that return home is who we are doing business with. And the neat thing about them is you can go out there and go over there whenever you wish.
Yeah.
There's nothing to hide. They're going to welcome you. They are very transparent.
We realized early on, we thought that nobody would come and visit us. Why would you come and visit the facility? We figured we were just like crematory.
A processor. Yeah.
You don't go and visit a crematory. And to be very honest, when we first opened our doors, we looked like Costco. And we say that to everybody. That's what we look like, because why would someone come and visit us? And we learned very quickly that we become a temporary mausoleum for our families, because when you choose cremation, you have that urn back. You have your person back with you within maybe a week. And if you choose burial, you are able to go to the cemetery within a week or two, and you can still be with your person. But when your person is out of your care and they're with us for 2.5 months, that's a long time to not be able to be there. And Michael, our CEO, was sitting at the front desk, and an elderly gentleman knocked on our front door, and he had 2 cups of coffee in his hand, and Mike is sitting there. He's like, well, I didn't ask for coffee. And this gentleman just said, my wife is in your care right now and always had coffee 1 day a week. This is the first time I'm not having coffee with her. Can I just come in and sit with your vessel? And Michael quickly did is it safe? Is it legal? Is it done out of love? Yeah, absolutely. And this gentleman came back multiple times and just sat and was with his wife's vessel during this whole process.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason why we love these people, is because everything that they have always done always exhibits care for the family, always, and dignity for the body. That is the most important criteria for selecting somebody who either helps you as a funeral director or helps you for terramation or natural organic reduction. So Mandy, I'm happy about your career has kind of extended into this part. I'm sad that you're not working with us anymore, but we do kind of get to work together, and this is a great option that is coming to Minnesota. And if you are interested in it, go to our website at Intera Green Burial or call us directly, and any funeral director can answer your questions and help you out. And that's it.
Perfect.